There are 651 Gamecube games, and I'm trying to beat them all while at the mercy of this horrendous wheel. Welcome to beating the Gamecube. Game number 15 is Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix. Released in 2005, it was developed by Konami and published by Nintendo. This was our first ever community vote winner and is a nice, short, simple game for a change. One house rule that I have for this challenge is I will always use the proper peripheral if it's reasonably priced. This means bongos for Donkey Konga, and in this case, a dance mat. Did I have the moves to beat this one? Let's find out. The premise here is super basic. Waluigi sneaks into a castle housing the music keys, the bearers of all music power in the Mushroom Kingdom. He releases them, and that plunges the world into chaos. His plan is to hypnotize the world with his epic dance moves and rise to power. I'm not kidding, that's the story. Toad, seeing this happen, heads to find the Mario Brothers, and the game begins. The menu is super jazzy, and it has a lot of modes on offer. For our purposes though, we just need to finish the story. You could choose either brother, I let the chat vote, and they went with Luigi because they have good taste. My challenge only requires me to play the default difficulty of easy, but I decided to not be a coward, and I locked in normal, so it'd be at least somewhat challenging. There are 4 worlds to complete, each has an assortment of challenges to overcome. Toad gets us up to speed on the notes being stolen from Truffle Tower. Apparently, people worldwide are being forced into spontaneous dance due to their absence. Dire stakes indeed. Luigi, being a bro, agrees to help, and we set off on our adventure. There is, however, instantly a roadblock. There's no bridge. Not a problem though. When the keys make you shake your thing, magic things start happening. So yeah, the power of dance will bring the bridge back. This game is very, very weird. But that does in fact mean that it's dance time. Let's go. This starts out as classic DDR, meaning arrows slowly scrolling up, pointing in the 4 cardinal directions. I needed to press the corresponding arrow on my dance mat when they touch the holes. Better timing and higher combos help you score higher, and you're graded based on how well you do. I finished that level thinking I'd done pretty well. Turns out I got a D. Harsh. This would become a recurring gag throughout. I always felt like I was doing better than I actually was. And that's kind of the game. Move to next obstacle, do a thing, and repeat. The tasks do change each time though. For my second mission, I had to slay enough Goombas whack-a-mole style to proceed. This was much easier than the actual dancing, and I totally crushed it. You do receive coins based on your performance, and these do have important uses down the line, so you gotta try your best. With that arduous journey behind me, I finally reached Truffle Tower, and I'd beaten this game. Well, not quite. The tower is actually locked, and Waluigi surprises us with a bob-omb, and that throws me down a pipe to my next challenge. I'm being attacked by hordes of Goombas, and I have to use the power of interpretive dance to free myself. This has the exact same control scheme as the first stage, but I do sometimes need to stomp on Goombas by pressing the arrows that they cross. This game looks absolutely gorgeous, it just oozes personality. Luigi can also cut some serious shapes, and I love all the little details in the background. There's background dancers, level transformations. I just love how goofy this is, and we've only just begun. Sadly, just another D here, and I was starting to see a pattern emerging. D's, man. I found my first shop next. This is where we can spend those coins we've been hoarding. The items on offer do things like restore 1 life, make the next stage a little easier, and increase the max dance meter to make a stage more forgiving. If you game over by running out of lives, you have to do the entire story from the beginning, so the stakes were actually really high towards the end, and I needed all the coins I could get. The shopkeeper also has the Truffle Tower key, and he says I can have it if I solve a Koopa problem for him. So now it's Garden Boogie and stomping Koopa Troopers. Similar to the Goombas from before, but as is typical in Mario, Koopas need to be stomped twice. Little flavour like that is very enjoyable throughout the adventure. By now, I felt like I'd really found my groove. I was kind of cooking when it came to keeping my combos going as well. One snag I'd encountered was that the back arrow of my dance mat was a little unresponsive. This wasn't a huge problem yet, but it became a bit of a fiasco down the line. I even got my first B. I'm literally the greatest player that ever lived. Having beaten all the Koopa Troopers, we get the key to the tower, and we're ready for our first boss fight. To get there, I do need to climb a flagpole. I have to run with the left and right arrows like an absolute goober, and then hit up with good timing to make the jump. I was still gaming though, and I did get the top score. With the tower now open, it's time to confront Waluigi. He was and has a bit, but then challenged me to an epic dance battle. Every stage has a Mario Party style explanation for the gimmick and other helpful info, and I really appreciate that they don't just throw you in. It's a proper dance-off this time. We have a split screen, Puyo Puyo style, so we can see just how well he and I are both performing at any given time. The gimmick here is quite different. We're both battling to make the other person's bob-ombs explode by stopping the Podoboos from hitting our own bombs. They also get progressively faster over time, and it isn't always obvious which arrow they're going to head towards first. Failing in any stage lowers your star gauge, and if that runs out, you will lose a life. In this case, the bob-ombs chunk the gauge massively, so it's important to do well. I was still in the zone though, and I crushed this one. I was also just having a ton of fun, and chat were loving the dance mat gimmick as well. I got a big fat A, and I'm pretty sure that's the highest score you can get, so I was very pleased. Waluigi just got Thanos snapped, he completely disappears, but I was given my first of the 4 musical notes. The story is very much an afterthought here, so it does move at quite a clip, but that's fine by me. It's nice to have anything, and it's pretty cute. I now have my very own flying ship, the SS Brass, and I'm off to find the other 3 notes. There is a bonus stage after you collect each one. This is for grabbing more coins. Here I was supposed to duck or jump over the spiky balls, but I found the timing really tricky and I made a complete pig's ear of it. Coins are coins though, so we'll take what we can get. And that's mostly it. The remaining 3 worlds are a rinse and repeat of what you've seen, but the difficulty increases and new gimmicks are added. I could even repair Toadette's hotel just by dancing. Convenient. I haven't mentioned the music yet, and I honestly really enjoyed it. It's a combination of remixes of classic Mario tunes, and then some songs that I assume are exclusive to the game. Hopefully the YouTube copyright system is going to cut me some slack on this one. I really want to use the soundtrack as the background for this video, so you can hear all the awesome jams. To get to note 2, I need to venture into a magical whirlpool, but before we can go inside the brainy deeps, we're going to need the second key from a shopkeeper. Thus we head to the nearby island. Before I can get to the shop, monkeys attack me, and that leads to Banana Storm. Like I said, the story moves at a real clip, but this is an easy one. Move side to side with the arrow keys, collect the bananas, and avoid the spinies. Nice and simple, plus some extra coins. Shopkeeper number 2 says he'll only give me the key if I can best him at fishing. Little does he know he's challenging the top angler. This was a tougher one though. I had my first real taste of double arrows, and they are a staple from here on out. The objective was to catch the most cheap jeeps by hitting the arrows they cross. They do have some erratic movement, it's definitely becoming harder to keep up with increasing difficulty. Lucky for me, anything short of failing a level still counts, so I just kept on schmoovin'. With the key in hand, it was back into the magic whirlpool. Then, thanks to the awesome power of dance, I could maintain my ship's integrity through the increasing pressures of the seas. By now, that unresponsive down arrow was becoming an increasing issue. It was leading to some frustrations, as a lot of my inputs just weren't registering. I was able to hold it together using the other 3 arrows, but a lot of down and double inputs weren't going through, and that was a little bit rough. I could have switched to a controller and had a much easier time, but I said I'd beat it with a dance mat, damn it, and so I will. Having traversed the whirlpool safely, I arrived at an underwater temple thing, and inside was orb number 2. Of course, it couldn't be that easy, so I was challenged by a giant blooper for the boss fight. Bring it on! Unlike Waluigi, this is just me dancing on my own, but the blooper is constantly attacking to try and deplete my star meter. The music for this stage was a remix of the classic underwater Mario theme, and easily one of my favorites in the whole game. I'm attacked by mini bloopers, but these are just the same as Goombas. As long as you stomp them on the arrows, that's fine. There are also tentacle attacks from the big guy. These come out a lot faster, but it's all still pretty manageable for now. I took down the giant blooper, and I was halfway there. 2 more keys to go. We left the ocean area, and we flew back to the World Select menu. This time the bonus game was a simple shell game with a choice between a 1-up or some coins. With things getting tougher, the 1-up seemed like the obvious choice, so I yoinked that and continued. World 3 is amusement park themed, and of course we'll need to do various challenges to reach the music key. To even enter the park I need to outdance some Hammer Bros, so let's get to that. This is another duel similar to Waluigi and the Podoboos, only this time we need to juggle the hammers and hit ordinary notes at the same time. I will always massively appreciate games that introduce mechanics early, give you a chance to learn them, and then slowly ramp up the difficulty by iterating on and combining them in new ways. I only just scraped by with 9,000 more points than my opponent, but good enough is good enough. We saw boss number 3, Wario, riding the roller coaster, and Luigi gives chase. This was a really fun one. It's a faster tempo than before, and an absolute bop of a song. This was possibly the most engaging level so far. The gimmick is using switches to turn arrows into coins and then trying to collect as many of them as possible. I wanted as many coins as I could get my mitts on, so 40 was a big win. By now, I was consistently getting D's and F's on most stages. My cheap dance mat was moving around underneath me, and the back arrow also only worked about half the time. But if it beats the game, who cares? We chased Wario further, and he ran into a spooky Boo mansion. Luigi, though, is an expert at handling those on the Gamecube, so I'm not scared. The gimmick here is pretty cool. Every misstep makes the giant Boo move up the screen, and eventually he would cover the arrows, making it impossible. Stomping the mini-boos chases him back down, so the pressure does begin to mount a little bit here. I'll admit my cheap dance mat isn't the only thing to blame. I have never played a DDR game before this, and had lots of bad habits. I would always default both my feet to the middle between the arrows, and this is a clunky way to play. I'm pretty sure the best players just continuously move to each new arrow, and they rarely stand on the middle, so my way was definitely not very efficient. I was hanging in there though. Just. Boss fight 3 now. Wario's goal is to use the music keys to make his own video game, DDR Wario Mix, which is just great, and I must admit, I was really looking forward to watching Wario's dance moves. The boss fight here is similar to Waluigi's, but rather than just having the bob-on Podaboo mechanic, we do have regular arrows as well. There are a lot more double notes happening, so I had to try and keep my score up whilst keeping my dance meter safe. The Wario-themed dance music is really funny, and watching this big guy just moving around like a fiend was fantastic as well. That's probably a C, I reckon. A C, maybe. It's an F, it's fine, it's fine. No DDR Wario Mix just yet, I guess? Wah. With 3 of the music keys in hand, we've got 1 more to beat the game. The bonus stage this time was a bunch of free resources, so I just slurped those up and went on my way. The final world is ice-themed, a Mario classic. This time the key is on top of the mountain, so we'll need to use our awesome powers of dance to find our way up there. Another of my favourite stages up next. This was a game original song, and it had a weird sort of country vibe to it. I loved all the background characters and Luigi's top tier moves here, just so much flavour. This time, the Cheep Cheeps will knock into arrows, and that moves them at the last second, so it's a case of reacting to the changes and keeping your cool. This is just a really fun one. The level after, though, was tough. This was the bane of my existence, and the closest I came to failing my playthrough. It starts simply enough. It has regular arrows and those coin switches from the roller coaster. I was doing pretty well despite my dodgy back arrow, and I was keeping my star meter up. But then... Back just is not working. Dude, back on this thing is not working. This sucks. My back arrow is almost totally broken by now. I had to stomp the hell out of it to make it register. This was manageable at the beginning while the sequence was slower, but there's a super fast section chock full of down arrows near the end, and that totally wrecked me every time. I was getting worried. I had very few lives remaining, and as I mentioned before, if you run out, you have to do the entire story over again from the beginning, and honestly, I would cry. So now the pressure was on. Chat and I did discuss switching over to a controller for the last few stages, as I really didn't want to game over this far in. But there was some rioting to keep using the mat, and I'm a stubborn person anyway, and I really wanted to finish where I'd started. With my final life on the line, I locked in with my dance mat, and I vowed to beat this roadblock. As usual, I could cook during the beginning bit, and build up my star meter. When we got to that hard bit, I just needed to keep my cool. Even if I couldn't hit the down arrows, I just couldn't let it throw off my groove. Gotta save it. Okay. Saved. Saved. Thank God, dude. With my final life hanging by a thread, I pulled through and I was ready to push for the big dub. Mercifully, there was a shop here and I had saved up quite a nice nest egg of coins. I was able to purchase a second life and an item that also gave me a second chance during a level if my dance meter were to empty. Feeling a lot better about my prospects, it was time for boss number 4. This works very similarly to the Giant Boo stage. Every failure makes Mr. Freezy creep up the screen, but every fire flower that you hit makes him go back down. Things got very dicey at times, with my dance meter nearly emptying and Freezy just below my arrow markers. I managed to hold it together though, and with that, we beat the final boss. Sweet deal. We did it! Yahoo! With all 4 keys in hand, we just need to head back down the mountain. Unfortunately, an ill-timed avalanche begins to chase us, so you know what that means. Dance! Dance the dance of life! This stage was a cool one, ha ha ha. The gimmick here is to not step on the ice spinies while hitting the other arrows and stomping on Goombas. Compared to that cabin one from earlier, this was far easier, and I beat it first try like most of the levels. So now all that was left to do was head to Truffle Tower and restore the music keys to beat the game. Of course, that would be far too simple. Bowser intercepts us and he's taken the keys for himself. Now we've got to chase him to his castle for one final showdown. We nearly catch up to his ship, but then he starts pelting us with bullet bills. Thankfully though, just like all of life's problems, we can solve this one by dancing. There are multiple respawning bill blasters at the bottom of the screen, and they periodically launch bills at you. If any go through, the dance meter gets chunked, so there is little room for error on these. If you bounce enough bills back to the blasters, they'll explode and that gives you a brief respite before the next. We're almost done with this game, and I just want to repeat what a laugh this stream was. I've never done anything like it before, and it was a really memorable experience. Bowser does a Bowser and tries to absorb the power of the dance keys, but apparently we just yoinked them off camera. He then challenges me to one final dance battle for the ages, and it's time to flex on the King of Koopas. He's cut shapes, look at him go! This whole level was just hilarious. Bowser cuts some serious shapes here, doing all sorts of fancy flips and slides. The goal is to keep the dance meter alive whilst collecting rocket parts as they cross the arrows. Collecting all 3 pieces will assemble a rocket, and they will chunk down his health. The final rocket spawns a giant hammer, which bonks him into oblivion, and as I hit the last few arrows, we get some fancy fireworks and some insane moves from Luigi. Ah, good! Yes! Yes! And with that final fiesta complete, I had beaten this game. Bowser's grand plan was to fix his tone deafness with the music keys, and since Luigi's a sweet boy, he uses the keys himself. He transfers the power of music into our souls, and that makes us all want to dance. You better be dancing right now, that's all I'm saying. And thus we leave the world a happier place, and we've solved all of our problems with nothing but dance. The end. Even the credits are a dance number, which is just really cute. It's a great way to finish the game. So it was time for one last rodeo. And that concludes Mario DDR. I had a blast with this. Streaming it definitely carried the experience though. It took me just 1 hour and 23 minutes to beat this one, making it our shortest game to date. I gave this a 4 for difficulty. I was playing a fairly easy mode, and my dance mat was the only real reason things came down to the wire. Enjoyment was a 7. This was some goofy fun, and chat loved it, but it's really not quite the same league as something like Killer 7. If you made it to the end, then please enjoy a sneak peek at what I'll be playing next time. Alright, here we go. Please be something nice. Conan, or Conan the Barbarian. So there it is. Game number 16 is a GameCube version of Conan the Barbarian. This one looked pretty rough from my research, but we'll find out. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing as they do help the channel grow, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.